So what is the actual best modeler out there? This is a question that I get asked all the time. It's in my comments almost daily. It's DM to me on social media, which if you don't follow me, by the way, go ahead and do that. And most of the time, actually all of the time, I have the exact same answer. People always want to know, what is the best modeler? What's the best modeler for my situation? What's the best modeler money can buy? What's the best budget modeler you can get? What's the best? What's the best? What's the best? For those of you that don't know, I do have all of the modeling units, and I have an entire channel here, mostly dedicated to digital amp modeling users. I even have a podcast dedicated to anyone using digital gear called the Silent Stage Podcast. Links to it below if you want to check it out. And I've been making my living pretty much using digital gear while touring and here on YouTube for the last like 7 or 8 years. My name is Steve Storlacci, and if it is your first time, again, welcome. Consider subscribing if that's your thing. So let's actually talk about this unfortunate, disappointing conversation, because the hardest truth here in this particular instance is the best modeler is the one that you have, the one you can afford, and the one you like using best. People love to argue and say that one sounds better than the other, and this one is better, that one's better. At the end of the day, what works best for you as the guitar player that's plugged into it, or other instruments, that's going to be up to you. My fingers will sound different than yours. My modeler will sound different than your modeler. It's such a weird topic because you'll talk to pros at the highest level saying that they love this modeler. Then you'll go to another pro and they'll say they love another modeler. Then you'll go to the Facebook group and you'll see the guy in the local bar band saying this modeler is the absolute worst piece of crap they've ever tried. And then you'll see another person in a local club scene saying that this one's the worst one that they've ever tried. Sorry to say, guys, it's all on you. And that is the hardest truth to really swallow here. I've got them all. I dial them in. I've made presets for all of them. I'm not going to say that they all sound the same, but what's important is that the end result for me is always negligible, to be honest. I've multi-track recorded myself with every modeler known to man, different rehearsals, and I always wind up sounding like me. I don't sound better or worse on another modeler. It's just a fact. And unfortunately, that's the truth. So what does it come down to for me? And what do I suggest to people when you're looking for the best modeler? It's going to depend on your situation, what you like to see, what you like to sound like. There's so many factors that play into this. I'm going to try to talk about the options and what type of things you're looking for. So a lot of people immediately go by size, in which case this size does matter. And people have all-in-one floorboards where they have the gigantic full-size flagship modeler. That's a big floorboard that's got all the foot switches, bells and whistles. Other people just want a modular setup that incorporates their real pedals. And some want an all-in-one that's in a smaller rig and they're willing to sacrifice elsewhere. There's so many things that differentiate them from one another. For example, Line 6 Helix and Fractal FM9. Big boards, a lot of foot switches, scribble strips so that you could clearly see everything that you're stepping on, versus the Quad Cortex, HX Stomp, which are smaller units, easier to travel with, fit on a pedal board, and they're subject to looking at a screen rather than having the scribble strips above your foot switches. Some people need to see scribble strips. They can't look at buttons and equate the screen to where the button goes. And that's totally fine too. Some people's brains just don't work that way. It's confusing at first until you get used to it, but that's definitely a big factor. That's something that I really like about the Helix and the FM9 in particular, being able to read and see what things you're turning on and off. And it's a really nice experience having that nice big layout. Other units have built-in expression pedals and some don't. Helix has a built-in expression pedal. Quad Cortex doesn't. FM9 doesn't. So I actually don't use an expression pedal. So that would be a reason for me to not use a Helix and maybe go for one of the more travel-friendly, lighter options. Instead of an expression pedal, I can use that space to incorporate a real pedal. And that's something that you'll need to consider if that's going to be something you're going to do, something you're interested in doing or want to try. Really think about what is going on around your floorboard situation. I do recommend trying to go all in one box. I personally like it. I like going all in one box, but I have also recently moved to a couple of pedals and an HX Stomp. Um, I also like having a real analog pedal board where I have a real couple of pedals, and then, I'm doing an amp modeler going to front of house. So again, even for me, there's no answer. There's no which is best, because it's really which one do I feel like, which one works for the situation that I'm currently in. So let me know in the comments below what your situation is and why you chose the modeler that you use. Another thing to consider after size is what type of signal paths are you interested in running? There are things like the Quad Cortex, which has, a ton of digital signal processing power, where you could fit, something like 40 blocks or something on your screen, and you can basically have anything that you want on one single layout. But you also only have 8-foot switches, so maybe that's not something that you need all that horsepower for. They're also very basic on their routing, along with the Line 6 Helix. Basic routing meaning you can do a signal path, and you could do, a small parallel path, and you can experiment with that as you choose, have different send things out, etc. But then there's the fractal world, where you have a completely open grid, which Fractal is the only one that does this. And they're by far the most advanced and flexible in the routing capabilities. You could do parallel on top of parallel, and you could split your signal as many times as you want, as long as it'll fit. If you're using a Axif X3 rack mount, especially, you have so much power and so much flexibility. You could put multiple parallel paths. And to some people, they're going to say, holy crap, what does a parallel path even do? And there are others that are saying, oh, great, I love parallel paths. If you don't need to have an open grid, open format, if looking at that overwhelms you, because that's a real thing too, I'm less inclined to use things I'm overwhelmed by. So when I see an open grid, sometimes I shut down and I'm like, I don't even know what I want to do. I don't even know where I want to start my preset. Whereas something like Helix, or particular, I guess we'll talk about HX Stomp here, because that's been more of my mainstay, because it's limited. I'm actually choosing to use the HX Stomp XL because it only can do 8 blocks. And I've had this enlightenment of recent, where I got so burnt out on doing all of this with the digital amp modelers, having so much processing power at my fingertips, that I was like, how about I just stop doing this and go back to a basic pedal board? And that was the HX Stomp for me. There's nothing, I'm locked into those 8, which for me was something I was excited about, because I have to do all of the stuff I need to do within the 8 blocks. And I don't have to worry about a complex preset, a complex switching system. It was just simple for me, and I've really enjoyed that. But if you're somebody that loves to tweak and wants to have unlimited power and possibilities, then go for it. Check out all the other options and all the different things. Fractal's excellent with that. And I'll even give credit here to ToneMaster Pro, because ToneMaster Pro is just a straight linear path no matter what. So you can split your path if you want to, or if you don't want to, you can go straight across and you have as many blocks as you could fit. They have skeuomorphic, which means that the pictures on the actual screen look like the actual product. So that's a little bit of a reason that people lean towards ToneMaster Pro, is that it looks familiar. It feels familiar. You can put and click and drag things that you know what they look like, and you know where they are. So that's another cool thing. That's just a visual cue that a lot of people go for. You tell me. I don't know what's best. And on that same topic, the hyper advanced, Fractal, I think, is by far the most advanced as far as everything goes. The most sophisticated parameters, and you can go so deep into the rabbit hole on Fractal that you can get lost for weeks figuring out Fractal stuff, or you don't have to. The thing that turns people off most of the time is the option paralysis, the overwhelming abundance of blocks and parameters. And, oh my God, if I touch this, am I going to blow everything up? Is this going to screw everything up? there's no reason that you can't have something with unlimited power and only use small amounts. I chose to do that with hardware, like I said, with the HX Stomp. There's no reason that I couldn't take an FM9 that I have and only use 5 blocks, 8 blocks, and just make it a real pedal board. Real, meaning use it in the traditional pedal board sense as just effects into an amp. So people get overwhelmed, but there are so many ways that you can use even the most advanced units in basic ways. And that's something that I don't think should be ignored when you're factoring your decision. Again, I know it's going back and forth because I just told you that I would go HX Stomp XL because I'm forced to be simple, when now I'm telling you, you can also go with a Fractal or a Quad Cortex or Toemaster Pro that has a million options in it and a lot more horsepower, but you don't have to use it. You can keep it simple. And ultimately, I do recommend you keep it simple on whatever unit you're using. And if you're a tweaker that you're just interested in getting as crazy and as in-depth as you can, as nerdy about it as you want, then that's where you go for the ones that are capable of that. But if you're someone that just wants to play, don't do the advanced stuff. It's that simple. Keep it simple and use basic stuff. That's what works for me. And now as we move into the future, things have gotten crazy now. Like the stuff that's out there is so cool. ToneX is out there now. Like this is a, what is it? 5 effects or something, 5 blocks, whatever it is. You can do 5 effects with a dialed in amp sound, 2 of them going back and forth AB on a mini pedal. This is the new Joe Satriani Chrome edition. How sick is that? And I actually just put out a pack of my 1963 Bassman, which is my favorite amp of all time. Now I can take my favorite amp of all time, I could put it into this tiny box, and I can use my regular pedal board into this. So if you're somebody that's totally new to going direct or totally new to modeling and you don't know where to go, I think you're an absolute moron to not at least have a ToneX one. I almost think that every guitar player should have a ToneX one in every gig bag, and every venue should have one in every backline, just in case. If you're not going to use it as your primary sound, having something like that as a backup it's a no-brainer at the price. They're so ridiculously cheap. I mean, it's worth just having it alone. But my point here being, amp capturing, profiling, tone modeling, whatever other nomenclature's out there for capturing the current state of a real tube amplifier, using neural amp modeler, whatever it is, any of those, you get the gist. If you don't know what I'm talking about, basically any of the units that take a real amp, send pulses and sounds through it, record how the amp sounds, replicate how the amp sounds, and put that into a pedal. This is a very big two-way street. You can buy my 63 Bassman capture pack that I have for ToneX, and it could be the dream sound in your head in 2 seconds. Or you can spend hours and money searching for the perfect capture profile, whatever it is. Because there's a lot of bad ones out there. There's a lot of ones that will sound great in my hands that will sound terrible in your hands, or ones that'll sound great for your hands and terrible with my hands. That's just how it is. I mean, it's like going to any other person's guitar rig and plugging into it. You're not going to sound the same as them. I mean, you can go to any professional stage, plug into the guitarist rig. You're not going to sound like them. You're still going to sound like you. But the units like a Kemper or something have been around for a long time. There's such a big ecosystem and resources for getting great tones. The first time I ever plugged into a Kemper was my Kemper Player. And the presets were so good off the bat. I was like, wow, this feels great and this sounds great. And then I could have just left it like that and never touched it again and had the great amp sounds and I'm good. You know, I'm done. Or I can spend hours and hours and hours looking on the tone net or on the whatever it is for Kemper. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of captures, profiles, whatever they are. That can be even more overwhelming than learning how to use a model, and not only complicated, but also simpler and faster. I mean, with a modeler, you're having what's modeling a real amp with real knobs, just digital. You just turn the knob and you turn the knobs until it sounds the way you want it to. And then once it sounds the way you want it to, you're done. A lot of people prefer that but this new wave of capturing and this new wave of getting amp models or getting amp captures, everybody wants amp captures, but there's that trade-off. They really think that there's something to the sound of amp captures that is different than modeling. I don't know if I'm sold on it as better or worse. Like I said, it's guitar tone. I still sound like my guitar sound no matter what I use, whether it's a real amp mic'd up, a capture, or the modeler. I just sound like myself. And really, none of them, I think, sound better than another. And ultimately, what it comes down to is your workflow. And this is going to be the point that I end on here, because this is probably the most important factor of choosing your amp modeler or choosing your rig here, your digital rig. And again, watch the podcast, check out the podcast below to hear from other pros about how they went about their search, because they all have different stories and opinions and different experiences that are different than mine. So I advise you to go check out what everybody else has to say. Also, workflow for me is always number one. Now, what do I mean by workflow? For me, the workflow is making a preset fast on the unit, having it sound pretty good off the bat, and then take that to a rehearsal and have the ability to make adjustments fast. I want to be able to make adjustments fast. That's my number one priority when I choose a modeler that I'm my modeler of the week. Even if I changed, my main thing would be, how can I make adjustments fast? And that's one thing, for example, Tone X1 would not be great with, because Tone X1 is complicated to use until you dive into the software. Now, could I get lucky and have a perfectly crafted sound and bring that to gigs? Sure. But anybody that actually gigs these things professionally and on a regular basis without a regular sound man will tell you that it will sound different in different rooms, and you are going to be dependent on a sound man to make it sound normal, or you're going to need to make adjustments on the fly. This happens all the time. You know, it could sound great in one room and terrible in another room. That's just the way the rooms are. I mean, it's just like anything. You don't have your amp at the same settings in every single room, every size venue. You change it. You alter it to the room. You EQ yourself to the room. And that's no different in the modeling digiling world. Sure, a lot of people just leave it as is and plug in and let front of house deal with it, which is their job. So to be fair, that's fine. But me personally, I want to be able to make adjustments on the fly fast and not take up other people's sound check time. I'm in a vocal heavy band. I don't sing. Our sound check time, particularly on festivals or whatever, the singers get priority in our band for sound check. Obviously, to me, it's obvious. I don't know. Nobody cares if my sound is perfect. Sorry, guitarists. So singers are priority. So I'm lucky if I get, any decent amount of time that I can get plugged in and, amplified through the PA is great. And I have to use those moments the best that I can, be able to make the adjustments as fast as I can and get it sounding great before we even start sound checking. So for me, that is the easiest on the Helix. And I would say probably the Fractal also are the easiest to adjust on the fly. Fractal, you have what's called performance pages, which you can select whatever parameters that you might want, whether it's volume, mixes on your reverbs, delay times, whatever. You can choose, I think it's 8 parameters on the FM9 that you can have quick access to at all times. Line 6 has what's called the touch capacitance foot switch. So I just literally tap the foot switch and it pulls up the parameters for the pedal that I'm trying to adjust, which is, in my opinion, the fastest. I prefer that because I'm not limited to picking and choosing anything. I can just tap the foot switch over and go make an adjustment. I use that all the time. And also with the Line 6 stuff, you could save your preset on the amp settings and just they have knobs and coder knobs on the Helix screen that you can always access. And you could have your amp settings there and be able to tweak really fast on the fly. So for me personally, workflow on the Line 6 is the best as far as what I'm talking about here. And yeah, I'm not at all upset. I always wind up back with Line 6 because I'll try the other units out. I'll have what I think is a great sound. I'll go to a gig with it and I'll be like, oh, I want to fix that. And then I'm getting so frustrated because it's taking me out of the moment and I'm losing so much time not being able to adjust. It really made me appreciate the Line 6. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, the Helix is getting replaced soon. The new Helix is going to be coming out, which, I mean, still, it's not been announced. Nobody knows if it's coming soon or not. But regardless, if you're going to invest in gear, get an HX Stomp or an HX Stomp XL. They are such good investments. They are future proof. Whether you like it or not, as far as amp modeling goes, you will have premium multi effects for the rest of your life. I feel like at this point, I'm so comfortable and happy with the effect sounds that I can get out of an HX Stomp and the flexibility that I'll probably have one on my pedal board forever until I die. As crazy as that sounds, as long as I can step on and it still works, I'll probably have an HX Stomp of some sort on my board for the rest of eternity, because I think that it's that flexible. It can be a backup option. It can be a multi effects. It could be your tuner. It could just do so much. So that's my thoughts on that. So this turned into an awful rambly video. So let me know what you guys think. Add to the conversation in the comments below what you think is the best modeler and why. And again, it's cool if you tried them all and you think one sounds better. If it sounds better to you, that's awesome. But that does not mean that the other ones won't sound great for somebody else. So ultimately, the answer is the best modeler is the one that you have, the one that you sound best on, the one that you are most comfortable on. And if someone else doesn't agree with you, that is okay. Believe it or not. All right, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.